and be at home, both ashore and in the mast, with musket in hand. Their versatility was proven in the War of Independence when 234 Continental Marines conducted their first amphibious raid, capturing the British supply of gunpowder and cannons at Fort Nassau. Ever since, Marines have fought in every American war. Their legend has grown and grown and grown with each passing year. It was the Marines who won America's first overseas battle, vanquishing Barbary pirates on the shores of Tripoli. Their high, stiff collar, which shielded them from the pirate's sword, earned them the immortal name Leatherneck. It was the Marines who, after 2 long days of battle, marched through the halls of Montezuma. It was the Marines who took heavy casualties to kick the Kaiser's troops out of Belleau Wood in World War I, earning the title Devil Dogs. And it was the Marines who raised the flag on the black sands of Iwo Jima. From the Chosin Reservoir to Khe Sanh, from Helmand to Baghdad, Marines have struck fear into the hearts of our enemies and put solace into the hearts of our friends. Marines always lead the way. After the 1983 Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, which claimed the lives of 241 great U.S. servicemen, Marine Sergeant Jeffrey Nashton lay in bandages, so badly wounded, barely alive. When the commandant of the Marine Corps came to visit his hospital, Sergeant Nashton had to feel for the general's collar. He wanted to feel his 4 stars. He could not see and he could not speak. He signaled for pen and paper, and with shaking hand, he wrote 2 words, Semper Fi. That motto, Semper Fidelis, always faithful, burns in the soul of every Marine, a sacred promise the Corps has kept since the birth of our country. They are the elite masters of air and land and sea on battlefields all across the globe. They are the United States Marines. Representing the Marine Corps today will be a brand new VH-92, soon to serve as Marine One, along with 2 V-22 Ospreys from the famed HMX-1 helicopter squadron at Quantico, the Nighthawks. In June of 1775, the Continental Congress created a unified army out of the revolutionary forces encamped around Boston and New York, and named after the great George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware, and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do. And at Fort McHenry, under the rocket's red glare, it had nothing but victory. And when dawn came, their star-spangled banner waved defiant. At Shiloh, Antietam, and Gettysburg, our soldiers gave the last full measure of devotion for the true unity of our nation and the freedom of all Americans. In the trenches of World War I, an Army sergeant named Alvin York faced an inferno of enemy fire and refused to retreat. He said, "I won't leave, I won't stop." He shot his rifle 18 times, killing 18 of the enemy. When they fixed bayonets and charged, he killed 7 more. The entire German machine gun battalion surrendered because of one man, Alvin York. A generation later, the Army returned to Europe and embarked upon a great crusade. With knives and rifles in hand, the Rangers scaled the cliffs of Normandy. The 101st Airborne leapt into the danger from above, illuminated only by enemy flares, explosions, and burning aircraft. They threw back the Nazi Empire with lightning of their own from the turrets of Sherman tanks and the barrels of the M1 rifle. In the darkness of the Battle of the Bulge, with Nazis on every side, one soldier is reported to have said, "They've got us surrounded again, the poor bastards." Outnumbered American warriors fought through the bunkers of Pork Chop Hill and held the line of civilization in Korea. In the elephant grass of Vietnam, the 1st Cavalry made its stand amid a forest consumed in flame with enemies at every single turn. The Army brought America's righteous fury down to al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and cleared the bloodthirsty killers from their caves. They liberated Fallujah and Mosul and helped liberate and obliterate the ISIS caliphate just recently in Syria, 100% gone. Through centuries, our soldiers have always pointed toward home, proclaiming, "This we'll defend." They live by the creed of Douglas MacArthur: "In war, there is no substitute for victory." They are the greatest soldiers on earth. Nearly 250 years ago, a volunteer army of farmers and shopkeepers, blacksmiths, merchants, and militiamen risked life and limb to secure American liberty and self-government. This evening, we have witnessed the noble might of the warriors who continue that legacy. They guard our birthright with vigilance and fierce devotion to the flag and to our great country. Now we must go forward as a nation with that same unity of purpose. As long as we stay true to our cause, as long as we remember our great history, as long as we never, ever stop fighting for a better future, then there will be nothing that America cannot do. Thank you. We will always be the people who defeated a tyrant, crossed a continent, harnessed science, took to the skies, and soared into the heavens, because we will never forget that we are Americans and the future belongs to us. The future belongs to the brave, the strong, the proud, and the free. We are one people chasing one dream and one magnificent destiny. We all share the same heroes, the same home, the same heart, and we are all made by the same Almighty God. From the banks of the Chesapeake to the cliffs of California, from the humming shores of the Great Lakes to the sand dunes of the Carolinas, from the fields of the heartland to the Everglades of Florida, the spirit of American independence will never fade, never fail, but will reign forever and ever and ever. So once more, to every citizen throughout our land, have a glorious Independence Day. Have a great 4th of July. I want to thank the Army Band, the National Park Service, the Interior Department, the incredible pilots overhead, and those who are making possible the amazing fireworks display later this evening. Now, as the band plays the Battle Hymn of the Republic, I invite the First Lady, Vice President and Mrs. Pence, the service secretaries and military leaders to join me on stage for one more salute to America by the famous, incredible, talented Blue Angels. God bless you, God bless the military, and God bless America. Happy 4th of July.
in the evening dews and damps, I can read his righteous sentence in the dim and flaring lamps. His day is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Christ was born across the sea, with our glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free, while God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again, it was my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart. It's time we stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today.
Talking about that, both on the air from different perspectives, having seen the quakes that you've seen and the quakes that I've seen. And I've been reminded about my own earthquake kit. You know, I'm a big advocate of the earthquake kit. I would just buy the big backpack that has everything in it. But you got to update that food and update that water.
Right. And you know, we have to do this. Sometimes I say annually. I think it's better to even do it a couple of times a year. Some people do it when we have the time change. They go back and check everything, make sure that the batteries are still working.
This concludes the formal program. Please stick around and enjoy the fireworks overhead. They will begin just after 9 p.m.
Just haven't got a chance to look on Twitter or see what Caltech is saying, but we certainly felt it out here.
Well, we're getting a report that it was a 3.9, Bill, so it's no wonder that you felt it. As you're out and about there, are you seeing many people outside, outdoors, or what are you viewing?
Yeah, you know what? Believe it or not, there's a lot of people outdoors. A lot of people are hitting the local markets, grocery stores, liquor stores. They're trying to get water. We went to a couple gas stations trying to fill up our tank and get some supplies. And two of the gas stations we first went to weren't open. They had stuff knocked all over the place. But just in front of the liquor store we're at right now, there's been a steady stream of people coming in or out. The store is trying to clean everything up. There's a massive smell of alcohol inside. You can imagine they had a lot of damage. But if it weren't for these aftershocks, I understand the area is under a state of emergency. It would almost kind of seem like business as usual out here. But we know that's not the case given what happened this morning. But yeah, it's not like everybody's just sitting inside cowering in their homes today. Everybody's out and about, still doing what they got to do.
Well, Bill, let me ask you about the gas station situation, because we talk about there being the big one day in Southern California. And I know personally, I've lived by the theory of keeping my tank half full at all times so that you have some gas in the case of an emergency. How did it feel to pull up to these gas stations and see them not operating, not open, not available for business, not offering gas?
I mean, to be honest, it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. It seemed like it was just some of the gas stations here or there that weren't up and running. For the most part, it looks like, power is on here in Ridgecrest. It sounds like damage was limited to specific areas in terms of places that were to get shut down. But we were able to find another gas station that was up and running, 5 minutes up the road. So it was just kind of hit or miss depending on which areas were hit harder than the others. But unfortunately, I got to run, guys. We're trying to feed in some of the videos and the interviews we got for 5 o'clock so we can be ready for you guys.
Okay, Bill Malugin, they're on the scene in Ridgecrest. We look forward to your live reports. And as we've been reporting, this major quake struck at 10:33 this morning. And there's been concern, of course, about aftershocks that have followed, and there's good reason for that. There were 159 aftershocks. Greater than 2, 9 with a magnitude above 4, and believe you me, they get your attention. Dr. Lucy Jones talked about the fact that they've been able to pinpoint these aftershocks with greater clarity than we have in past years, just because the technology is so much better that we now maybe know about aftershocks we wouldn't have known in years past.
She's such a wealth of information, and so grateful that she jumps right out there to get as much information as possible when a quake hits. You're looking at the quake, the cluster here of all these aftershocks and the foreshocks. And you think of how big they can get and how small they can get. When this one hit this morning, it was kind of the rolling motion initially, and then it kind of got bigger. So you have to think, wow, it's not that big for me, but how big is it for somebody else? And that's the situation right here. Looking at that quake, a 6.4 magnitude at 10:33 this morning. And still everyone's talking about it in Southern California because so many felt it from, Orange County to even you get those people who message you from Las Vegas. We're talking about feeling that quake.
Right. And it's very much a Southern California happening where when there is an earthquake, people, in years past we would call each other. Now we text or we're on social media. But it's sort of that communal thing of where were you? What did you feel? Everyone does it. Within 2 minutes, my sister, who lives in Venice, had already texted me, did you feel it? Did you feel it? She was describing me what happened there. And that's just what we do. I think it's our way of being a community and touching others. I know during the 1994 earthquake, within a couple of minutes, my neighbors were at the front door to make sure I was okay. I lived alone, and they wanted to make sure I was all right. And I think that's sort of the silver lining, if there is such a thing, to these earthquakes, that we're reminded, even though we're this vast, huge city with people from all walks of the world and life and income levels and religions, that when there's a major event, it feels like a tiny little town again.
I think we were talking about this, off stage here earlier with some of our colleagues about the things that you worry about with an earthquake. Do you have an elderly parent, perhaps, or friend? I think of my animals. If I weren't to be home, if there was any kind of damage at the house, would that be okay? Would there be glass broken? Would they step in the glass? Things like that. Have you had any major damage in any of the quakes that you've experienced?
1994, I did. Because I lived in Sherman Oaks, which really wasn't very far from the epicenter.
Yeah.
And I talked a little bit about this earlier in the day, that it sounded like a freight train coming through my bedroom. It awakened me. It was Martin Luther King Day. I was already getting ready to get up early to be in the parade in South LA. But when it came through, I knew exactly what it was, and I struggled to make my way across my bedroom to get to a safe place. I couldn't walk. That was the intensity. So the closer you are to the epicenter, the longer it will go, and the intensity, obviously, is more extreme.
Well, you mentioned looking for a safe place. I did that today in case today's got bigger. Where could I go in my house
Gloom.
that was safe?
Hope you'll be streaming on the day of the rope.
As we look at this
Funny's
footage here, and
cursed
so many of
puppy
us
to
start
see Kyle.
rolling, it goes to show you for myself, I was able to pick up my cell phone. It went on that long that I could grab the cell phone and go run over to the chandelier and grab the dogs. But this is the camera inside a restaurant here, and you can see the reaction of those working there. And look how he braces himself there in the doorway.
Right.
Trying to find out if it's going to be bigger than that. But you see, people scramble. We run. We look around for safety. We look around for things that are going to fall and break. And there you go, things falling right there. And imagine if that were glass. I remember we had a fairly small earthquake, small enough that we felt it, but not a lot of major damage. But I had paintings and glass photos come off the wall and shatter. Wasn't a big thing, but 1 or 2 photos and there's glass, and I have dogs walking around.
Well, not only that, you realize that it doesn't take that much to get injured, which is why it's so important to protect your head. That's the number one thing. You want to make sure that you don't take a sharp object or a heavy object to the head for obvious reasons. That video that we saw earlier of that store, I want to give a little shout out to him because he was such a lovely man. Aladdin, that was Pita Fresh in Ridgecrest. Yes, he phoned in and he talked about the fact that he was opening the doors to let people come in to the air conditioning because it's very hot there in addition to everything else today, so that if people were without AC, that they could go there and they could get a little refreshment and be in the air conditioning. And you just love to hear that kind of community pulling together and folks opening up their doors and their hearts to help their neighbors.
That is a beautiful gesture, and I think that we see that from time to time in emergencies where people offer what they can. If this man had just air conditioning, and obviously a restaurant, there's food and drink there, but just to offer air conditioning and a place to sit down for people to come together, because in times of crises or fear or a scare, you don't want to be alone. You want to share in the experience, you want to share in the knowledge that everybody's okay, or share in whatever help that you have to offer. So that's a lovely gesture, and I'm glad that you shared that.
Yes. And it's important to note, even though it hit with some ferocity at a 6.4 at 10:33 this morning, we have not reported on any major injuries. There have been some spot fires that we had video of earlier today, but no deaths. No substantial injury, and that's great news to be able to report because we can't always do that with earthquakes. Sometimes we've had extreme loss of life. We've had people lose everything, their homes reduced to rubble, and the stories have been horrific. But so far, we do not have that to report today. This was one of the more dramatic scenes that was shown out of Ridgecrest, and obviously emergency personnel were there very quickly, Chris.
Absolutely. Well, thank goodness it wasn't worse than this. It is that reminder that living in earthquake country here, that we could experience yet again in the future much more damage, many more tough times, loss of property, loss of lives, as you said, Laura. This is one strong reminder of where we live. And we talked about emergency personnel. You and Marla were on earlier talking about emergency personnel being called in to the scene to support other agencies, to check out the infrastructure in that area. As we know, a state of emergency has been declared in Ridgecrest. It's a town of about 30,000 people, and it was several miles from the epicenter. I remember thinking when the quake hit, I thought perhaps maybe a 4, give or take. And then when that came on, the information here on Fox 11 that it was an over 6.0 quake, I thought, okay, this could be much worse for somebody else. And you see that right here. You think of the family that lives there and how much they have lost today in property.
Well, and I think that there's the loss of a sense of security that happens.
I was just thinking that, yes,
right.
absolutely.
We heard the bill talk about people being outside. You know, in Mexico City, people ran outside, and sadly, many of them died because they were hit by falling debris. But I think it's sort of a human emotion that you want to get away from the danger, and then you seek other people. You want to sort of feel the security of meeting and talking with other people. Here we see one of the people at the hospitals. We know that Ridgecrest Hospital was evacuated. There was concern that perhaps the hospital was not secure, and a preliminary investigation actually did indicate that there had been a modest amount of damage to it. So the person there, I think it was one of the main administrators, made that decision to move people out, and 15 people were moved out of there. The more serious folks were moved to hospitals in Palmdale and Lancaster. So that was certainly a good call on his part.
And this is a good example and a reminder of how emergency personnel will need to react in a bigger quake. It's that example of what happens. I mean, think of people being at a hospital when an earthquake hits. Think of doctors performing surgeries and being in the middle of a procedure. And that, to me, seems to be among the scarier concepts of this reality of an earthquake, of people who are doing something that could be very dangerous at the time and they're caught up in an earthquake.
Right, where every move is life or death.
Mm-hmm.
So then all of a sudden you have the earth moving and you're trying to perform an operation. We're happy to report, though, that they told us at the hospital there were no surgeries in motion when the earthquake struck. So then it just became an issue about getting patients removed from that facility,
Mm-hmm.
taking them to other spots, and all of that occurred earlier today.
And that's a reminder of thinking of those who are vulnerable, those who need our help.
Right.
The woman in the wheelchair, though, you think of how many people who are in wheelchairs or who need extra assistance in something like this. But the good news is no major damage for the most part, no major injuries that we're hearing about. We do have our crews there at the scene. We're going to, of course, have our top newscast at 5 p.m. coming up and have full reports there. But right now, we're just staying on the air to give you the information. I know, for example, my college roommate, Kim, is in town for the 4th of July celebration in Newport and texted me right away, my first earthquake. She lives in Arizona. and how many people are here for the holiday weekend who are feeling their first earthquake? This is what it's like here in Southern California.
It's a little bit of a California hello.
Yeah. And for some are going to say, okay, I can live through this. And others are going to say, this is why I perhaps don't live in
Right.
Southern California.
But everybody talks about their first earthquake. It really is a rite of passage.
Is that
and
what it is?
yeah, once you've been through one, you
Yeah.
feel like, okay, I know what it feels like. You know, obviously you can look back a little more lighthearted if no one's injured or killed. So we're able to do that today. But it's part of living here, and we say it often to the point where people may say, oh, not again. But it's so important to remind people that we do live in earthquake country, and that every opportunity to go back and go down your checklist and to make sure that you're ready, you can't say it too often.
Laura, we're just getting information right here. We have somebody on phone standby right now. Jeremy Kern. Jeremy Kern from San Bernardino County. Jeremy, are you looking at some damage?
Yeah, so right now we've completed our preliminary damage assessments out in the Trona area. We have our urban search and rescue crews and our heavy rescues, as well as additional engine companies, ambulance, and chief officers out there managing the incident. Once they arrived out there, our firefighters who are deployed within the region started that initial assessment for any immediate hazards. Those hazards would include immediate structural collapse or any cracks to buildings that would render them unsafe, or anything as far as a potential hazardous gas, natural gas, or a leak from some sort of broken pipe. Luckily, we didn't find anything significant other than minor to moderate damage to some structures, no significant damage to infrastructure or electrical equipment within the area. But at this point, we're conducting secondary evaluations, and we're just staying in the area and standing by for any aftershocks or any further progression if the incident does continue on throughout the day and night.
Jeremy, which agency are you with? Oh, I see now.
I'm with the
County Fire.
San Bernardino County Fire, yeah. And that's our service area out there in Trona. There's some neighboring counties. Ridgecrest is dealing with a lot of significant issues too. But we cover the area where the epicenter was within the Trona area.
We've been talking about the fact that this is a big retirement community. Can you give us a sense of the welfare checks that are being done house to house? How are people faring?
So it's a smaller community. Everyone kind of knows each other out in that region, especially the firefighters that work and live in the community. So they have done a direct assessment, door to door, making sure everybody's okay. Basically, like, as you said, a welfare check to make sure everything and everybody is okay. We didn't find any significant hazards. Some issues with septic tanks and sewer systems were off-gassing, a smell which people were mistaking for a flammable gas. But at the point where they investigated, it was just the sewer pits that were leaching out some of that smell.
Jeremy, I'm looking at a picture here of a crack in the road. Is this your team's picture?
No, we don't have that. We actually retweeted a picture from Caltrans District 9. We're very fortunate to have some proactive work. Caltrans in that district had that road repaired, I believe, within the hour after the earthquake. That does assist us to get our resources, equipment into the area. But we did see that, note that damage to several highways within the area, as well as rock slides and larger boulders that did come down onto the roadways.
So were you already on duty when this quake hit for the 4th of July, or were you called in, and did you have extra personnel called in?
So basically what happened was I was on duty this morning. I actually work in the high desert region, Hesperia, and we actually deployed resources out to that area in Trona. It's one of our furthest eastern northern areas of the county, and we cover a large county over 19,000 square miles, and that just happens to be one of the more distant areas that we have. and they don't really have immediate access to those specialized resources, equipment, and personnel like our heavy rescue and our youth firefighters. So we immediately sent those resources out to that area in case there were requirements for shoring or any sort of specialized rescue.
All right, Jeremy Curtis, San Diego County Fire Department. We thank you so much for that update and wish you and all of your colleagues the best in trying to get things under control out there. We appreciate your time, sir.
All right, so Laura, you've been doing our coverage for several hours today. We're going to bring in Marla Tejas in just a few minutes to continue our coverage right here on Fox 11. But right now we want to go back to some sound from Lucy Jones, who is our earthquake expert. She's talking about the possibility of a bigger quake. You know, we talk about the foreshocks and the aftershocks. Right. So let's go ahead and listen to what she had to say about that.
One should always be preparing for a big one. This does not make it less likely. There is about a 1 in 20 chance that this location will be having an even bigger earthquake within the next few days, that we have not yet seen the biggest earthquake of the sequence. It's certain that this area is going to be shaken a lot today, and some of those aftershocks will probably exceed magnitude 5, which means they will become damaging. We do not expect, this is far enough away from the San Andreas that any impact on that system will be minimal. I think this would be a good time to remind you that if you have been experiencing earthquakes for the last 20 years in Southern California, you have been experiencing an extremely quiet time in California history. The last time we had an earthquake in Southern California above magnitude 6 was 1999. The previous decade had about 8 magnitude 6s. So this has been an extremely quiet, abnormal time. This type of earthquake is much more normal. On the long run, we expect earthquakes of this size. It's not even 6.5. The long-term average is probably once every 5 or 10 years somewhere in Southern California. So, you know, remember, this is more what we should be thinking about.
All right, that was Dr. Lucy Jones there. Marla Tejas now joining the official coverage back again, with her basically saying that we need to all be prepared for that next big earthquake in our area of Los Angeles.
I'm thinking, I've had the luxury to MC a lot of events for the Red Cross, and they always have a silent auction, and they have those backpacks that are filled with all the supplies that you need. I buy that every time. I have one in the car, one in the station here, and for sure at home. So that's a reminder to try to have extra food, extra water, all those supplies.
All right, we've been on the air for more than 6 hours with earthquake coverage here, of course, the latest from Ridgecrest, but now we have more breaking news. This is a major accident that shut down part of the 60 freeway in Montebello. I believe we have a look at that accident. If we can bring that up, this is eastbound 60 at San Gabriel Boulevard in Montebello. This looks like at this point, this is a live look here from our helicopter Skyfox. 2 cars involved, you can see badly damaged, one overturned completely. Emergency crews are already on scene. Eastbound 60 at San Gabriel Boulevard in Montebello.
You're thinking, Marla, this is a holiday weekend, so as we look at this here, it is very sad to see the situation here where you have this accident eastbound 60. You can see these cars are badly damaged. One car here overturned. You have to wonder about the occupants there in that car. Law enforcement there on scene. You can see traffic in one direction is moving, but eastbound is going to be closed, I would guess, for some time as they deal with this situation here. What happened here on the freeway? Hard to tell. I'm just trying to think how cars going in the same direction end up looking like this here on the freeway. Again, it is a holiday weekend, and you hate to see this for anybody in this situation. So keeping a watch on this here on Fox 11 News. This is near the San Gabriel Boulevard exit here, 60 freeway eastbound.
Now, this is the Fox 11 5 o'clock news.
Basically felt like you were almost like on a boat, like kind of going with the waves.
The The strongest quake to hit Southern California in 20 years. Millions of people felt it from LA to Vegas, Ventura to Orange County.
My walls were just moving,
and then my bed started shaking.
A 6.4 quake center near the town of Ridgecrest. Shelves tumble and bottles break at this liquor store, possibly sparking this house fire. And check out the crack in this road. Quake expert Dr. Lucy Jones says it won't be the last.
It's certain that this area is going to be shaken a lot today.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christine Devine.
And I'm Marla Tellez. I'm here for Alex Michelson tonight.
We begin with today's ongoing coverage of the earthquake that hit Southern California this morning. It was felt all over Southern California.
And we want to show you on a map, this is in Ridgecrest near the epicenter here. It damaged homes and businesses and forced a hospital, Ridgecrest Hospital, to evacuate.
We're going to go live right now to Matt Johnson, who's at that hospital. Matt, what do you have for us?
Well, Christine and Marla, good afternoon to you both. So I have to tell you that everyone in this community very resilient, helping out each other right now. It's about 98 degrees according to my cell phone, and behind me you have patients being treated in a triage center along with doctors, and you have those first responders and the nurses. This is what the scene looks like at the area's biggest hospital. This was evacuated after this initial quake this morning. Take a look at this video. The regional hospital is the biggest hospital in the area, serving about 30,000 people. There were about 25 inpatients at the time when the 6.4 magnitude quake had hit. No one was on the operating tables. No one was in the OR. Everyone was evacuated. 15 emergency room patients were taken to the Palmdale, Lancaster area for treatment. Injuries being reported include, from the quake itself, cuts and scrapes from broken glass, and a few people who fell and hurt their hands or their feet, or they hit their heads. Now, there has been about 80 aftershocks since that initial earthquake. We felt one here in the parking lot about 30 minutes ago, and a little bit more than an hour ago, we were bringing you live coverage of a news conference here with first responders and also local leaders, and this is what happened. Take a listen.
We started doing a grid search of streets, looking for damage. Obviously, we just had an aftershock. We want to make sure to get enough resources we can possibly here to make sure that we take care of the communities that are going to be affected.
Because we've had over 87 aftershocks of this, we don't know what's going to happen. And with that, the state of emergency allows us to seek significant help from other governmental entities, and that is the reason why.
And it was also during that news conference that Fox 11 brought you live coverage of, that when she was speaking, the mayor, talking about the need for that emergency declaration, that's when Governor Gavin Newsom signed it, providing resources and additional funds to this area because, again, all the damage is just now being assessed, and it is still unclear what will be needed. Now, as for this hospital, the largest in the area, again, I told you about all the people that were evacuated. So there are big questions about what happens next. Coming up next half hour at 5:30, I'm going to do another report, and we're going to hear from the hospital CEO, and we're going to address that for you. We're live here at the scene of this earthquake in front of this hospital. I'll send it back to you guys now in the studio.
All right, Matt, thanks. You know, we think of this earthquake, maybe it didn't affect you too much, but we hear of the cuts and the scrapes and the broken glass at the hospital. You're reminded that it does affect somebody somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. We do want to continue our team coverage now with Bill Malugin.
Bill's also live in Ridgecrest. We'll look at the damage in some of the hardest hit areas. Bill?
Well, good evening to both of you guys. I can confirm that there are a lot of people on edge here in the city this evening because we did feel that aftershock just about 10-15 minutes ago as well. Our entire live truck started shaking, one of many aftershocks throughout the day. But where we're standing right now, this is East Ridge Liquor. This is East Ridge Market. This is the liquor store you've been seeing so much video out of the day because it has some of the worst damage here. Take a look. They've cleaned up most of it, but you can still see a lot of the liquor here was knocked all over the floors. They've been doing a good job trying to clean it up, but man, oh man, if you guys could imagine imagine the smell in here of all these different alcohols mixed together. But let's take a look at some of the video from earlier today, shortly after that earthquake first hit, when you can really get a sense of how much damage there was. This is when all those bottles were spilled on the floor, aisle after aisle after aisle of wines, beers, hard liquors, spilled on the ground, all mixed together, glass all over the place. There's a big truck out front removing everything, but they've done a good job of cleaning it up. But it certainly was not the only place to have damage today. Let's take a look at some of the video we shot from just about an hour ago. We went to the outskirts of town and we met with this couple who's lived in Ridgecrest for more than 30 years. Take a look. Their house foundation was completely knocked off. They said the shaking this morning was the worst they've ever felt, the strongest earthquake they've ever felt. Their foundation was knocked off. And if you take a look at the ground, there are cracks all over the ground, all throughout their property. Some of the cracks had a 2 to 3 inch drop. They said their property was moving all over the place. Then they let us inside of their house. You can only imagine the chaos and the damage in there. They said almost everything fell over, including their TV. And take a listen to what they had to say.
And it was never ending. I tried to get off the couch and I couldn't. He was starting for the door and it knocked him down, and it was just unbelievable.
I couldn't get off the floor. I wasn't even sure if I could stay on my hands and knees.
In their homes, one of many houses out here in Ridgecrest to take damage today. Take a look at this video. This was a house that caught on fire, likely because of a ruptured gas main after that earthquake. Thankfully, the homeowner wasn't there at the time, but fire officials went on to say 50% of that house was destroyed. They were able to save it before it was a total loss. We spoke with one woman here at the Liquor Mart who her house was damaged and well. She was understandably very emotional. She grew up here and said today was the scariest day of her life here. Take a listen.
The sound was like nothing I ever want to ever hear again. Ever. I don't even know how anybody in this town is going to sleep tonight. I have no clue. People want to know. I've been sitting outside on the front porch most of the day. So, just kind of scary.
This is the detention facility across the street.
And the biggest question this evening is how many aftershocks are we going to have? There have been dozens already today. We felt that strong one. It's registered at a 3.9 just about 15 minutes ago. Everybody here wondering how many more are there going to be? Are there going to be any stronger? And as people are trying to recover today, this is out in the middle of the desert. It's very hot. A lot of these places aren't open today. A lot of people have been flooding into this liquor market because they're one of the few places that's still open. Even though they have all this damage, they're still open. They're still doing business. It's very hot out. You can see I'm sweating. People are trying to get water, and there are not a whole lot of places that are up and running like this one right now. So everybody's still on edge here this evening, just waiting to see what happens with these aftershocks. We're going to have live team coverage for you guys all evening long out here in Ridgecrest. For now, we are live. Bill Malugin, Fox 11 News.
It is another issue that everyone's dealing with almost 100 degrees there.
And we heard from Matt Johnson that there have been more than 80 aftershocks. All right, right here, social media has been flooded with pictures of the quake damage. This is of a road in the town of Trona. It's about a half-hour away from Ridgecrest towards Searles County. The update says it's all incredible image of the road ripped open here. We're told just a little while ago that this road has already been repaired. They had crews out there fixing that road already. We heard that from the Kern County fire officials there, and good to hear that update.
CHP at 3 o'clock this afternoon at their press conference saying that all roads are passable and they made quick work of the big cracks in the road. All right, Susan Hirasuna, she spent the afternoon at Caltech. They had numerous briefings after the initial 6.4 jolts.
Susan talked with Dr. Lucy Jones. She's fabulous. She's a wealth of information. Susan, tell us about that.
Isn't she amazing? She can just, you know, bring it all down to our level so that we can understand it, but at the same time, you get a lot of really good information from her. We've actually been here all morning, too. We got here about 11 o'clock or so, and it was kind of interesting because the quake hit at 10:33. She lives here in Pasadena. She started counting. She realized it was a 10-second incident for us here in this area, but she immediately came into Caltech so that she could talk to us, and we arrived not long after that. She was surprised by our questions and said, you know, clearly the news cycle has changed and you guys are all up and live and ready to go at 11 a.m. And they, at that point, did not have that much information. Okay, now fast forward to this time period where more good information has come out. And also, you mentioned the number of aftershocks. It's actually more than 80, Christine. I don't know at what point are they starting to count them, because if you consider aftershocks maybe as minor as 2.5, so at one point it was well over 100 when we were talking to Dr. Jones. But take a listen to an interview that I did with her before we got kicked out of the media center at the seismological lab.
For us here in the Los Angeles area, we felt really mild earthquake shaking because of a big earthquake up in the Owens Valley, and it means nothing for our future. It doesn't make an earthquake in Los Angeles more or less likely. Okay, well, we're in intensity 3 shaking, which is defined as felt by most people indoors, but not usually by people outdoors. So if you are walking around, you don't feel it because you're walking around. If you're sitting quietly on a couch, it's more likely. If you're sitting on the upper floor of a building, you're going to feel it more strongly, and it will last for longer. So all of that question of what you felt, I mean, why should we think it should be the same across the hundreds of miles of Southern California?
West Valley felt it quite strongly. 5 miles away, Valley Village was talking to somebody on the phone who said there was an earthquake and only looked out to his backyard and saw that the water was rocking a little bit.
But you see, he saw the water rocking. He maybe wasn't feeling it because he just wasn't a particularly sensitive person. His next door neighbor might very well have felt it. And I know somebody who was a half a mile from me. I felt it strongly because I was sitting on the couch. He was in the shower. He didn't feel a thing. Right? And so that intensity 3 level is very much this characterization that it really depends on what you were doing.
And what the ground is like underneath.
What your ground like changes it some, but that's just, it's a relatively small variation. What you're doing at intensity 3, whether you feel it at all depends on what you're doing. When you've got up to, say, intensity 5, then everybody feels it. You're feeling it more or less strongly.
Helping lead members.
And intensity 5 may mean that there would be actual damage. So here for us, if we're feeling it at intensity 3, that is if you felt it at all. I did not. I was driving. You're really not going to have any kind of damage. So it's not really very worrisome for people in this area when you have that kind of seismic activity in the Ridgecrest area. Another thing that we learned from Dr. Jones is that the length of time of that quake, 5 seconds. Now compare that to the Northridge quake. That quake lasted 7 seconds. Now again, that's the actual quake. Now once the S waves, once the shock waves start to spread out over the Southern California area, by the time it gets down here, the length of that incident will feel different. Now, some people said that they felt like it went as long as 50 seconds. She thought that was probably not accurate, but she does admit when you've got these shock waves coming out towards and expanding out around the epicenter, that you can have those shock waves hit rocks, bounce off of rocks, basically echo off of the rocks, and that is why you will feel this incident a little longer than the people up in Ridgecrest. But of course, we're not feeling it as strongly. The geologists are probably up there now. They're probably taking a look at that road that you saw that photo of and see whether or not that is representative of the way this quake hit and how it ruptured to the surface of the earth. They also now know that it's what they call conjugate fault. So one fault fired, and then all the seismic activity then may have participated or engaged a second fault. So they believe there are 2 faults. They are not yet able to name the faults. The first fault they think might be the Little Lake fault, but it will be in the coming days when we start hearing more finalized reports and definitive reports on what exactly happened up there in Ridgecrest. But very interesting indeed, and unfortunately, it's a holiday. They let us stay up there till 3 o'clock. They answered our questions, and then they said, we got to go, and so do you. Reporting live in Pasadena, I'll send it back to you guys.
This is the facility right here.
And on this holiday, we have more breaking news. This time, this is San Marino here. It's a very bad accident on a very busy stretch of road. This is Huntington Drive, if you know the area. It is 3 or 4 lanes in each direction. The San Marino Tribute, the local paper there, says a man and a dog were struck and killed at the end of a 5K
We just keep
run.
walking around the facility.
Police are not confirming this yet, but the paper is reporting that this may have been the result of a street racing incident. We have crews there headed that way. Stay with Fox 11 for the latest on this very tragic story.
Americans.
Our continuing coverage of this 4th of July jolt, the earthquake,
fighting for
coming up
them.
next.
And we are a welcoming country. is the facility.
From Helmand to Baghdad, Marines have struck fear into the hearts of our enemies and put solace into the hearts of our friends. Marines always lead the way. After the 1983 Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, which claimed the lives of 241 great U.S. servicemen, Marine Sergeant Jeffrey Nashton lay in bandages, so badly wounded, barely alive. When the Commandant of the Marine Corps came to visit his hospital, Sergeant Nashton had to feel for the general's collar. He wanted to feel his 4 stars. He could not see and he could not speak. He signaled for pen and paper, and with shaking hand he wrote 2 words, Semper Fi.
This is what democracy looks like here.
That motto, Semper Fidelis, always faithful, burns in the soul of every Marine, a sacred promise the Corps has kept since the birth of our country. We shall overcome someday.
Kind of emotional out here, hearing the teachers, parents singing loud enough for the kids to hear inside. We've also walked around the facility several times to make sure that the kids can hear us through all the walls.
If somebody next to you is talking, tap them on the shoulder and tell them be quiet. We are streaming live from the detention center in Houston, Texas, to protest against
Shut it down! 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 Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down!
Tap him on the shoulder! Princess Moss is here! He wants to speak with us!
And NBC Studios said they're coming down if they're not here yet.
This is our NEA Secretary Treasurer.
Volume!
Thank you, news media, for being here and covering this. Thank you. Hey, back careful, guys. Out of the street, be careful.
Out of the street! Gracias, Telemundo!
My brothers and sisters from the National Education Association, thank you. Thank you for standing here with us in Texas. On the inhumanity of this government. Treating our children, the immigrants who are seeking justice for their lives. I could be one of those children in those detention centers. My parents could be one of those parents in those detention centers. And we are here to tell them no more. No justice.
No peace! No peace! No peace!
it down. Shut 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 it down.
Here's the facility that they're talking about, less than 2 miles from where the NEA is meeting.
We demand that this government do what's right for children and that they immediately release all of the detained children and stop separating families at the border.
When the teachers first arrived, we had one Houston officer in a patrol car pull up and actually get out of his car, chase down a teacher, and pull him over to his car, give him a ticket for jaywalking.
Sorry, what's that though? I didn't mean to go that person that they could possibly become. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate your support. This is a first of many. Thank you, NEA.
Thank you, officers. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you again for checking out the video. Please share it so that your networks know what's going on here in Texas and across the country.
Immigrants are welcome here. 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 Say it loud. Say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here.
get a ride home. We get a ride home. Okay. I'll go in the back again. I just need a Whataburger.
It's closed today.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's closed.
I think that's it.
Trendy, you okay?
Okay, so that's it. Just a couple of fireworks with the girls.
Grandma, look at that one. I know. That's pretty. That was it.
That's it.
This is part better.
Ooh, that one much better. It's going
Got all the extra. You better get back. Girl, you can't tell him nothing.
Papa, get back!
Grandma, look at that one. I know.
That's it,
Grandma.
That one was much better.
No, it wasn't. I'll show it.
This type of what? The heat.
He got more.
What's that?
He got more. He got more.
How y'all doing?
He got more.
No, I don't want you to leave us. Grandma, tell him do not leave us.
Oh, he's not going nowhere. Is that it, y'all?
Yes. I like that one. Good job. Woo! See, y'all, we don't mess around. All right, this is gonna go on all night. So much fun. Let me write this.
Hey.
It's that pyro fan, y'all. Was that cool, y'all?
Oh yeah.
I jumped through fireworks. March for days.
Yeah, dang plastic bottle. Yeah, right. Here it comes, folks. Oh, well, I
You didn't miss nothing.
yeah. Yeah.
I'll put it on the ground for y'all to see what we're working with. These flowers is okay. You're right, they're already done, so what's the point, right? It's school watch!
That's what you'd see up there. On fire. Hey.
That's what you saw him stop.
Yep, that's what happened up there.
On fire. Never mind. America. Crap.
What? Oh, what the heck?
Put that in the fire and light it.
Why y'all ain't popping these things?
Oh! Possum. I'm actually trying to watch the possum. Yeah. Look what started of it.
Stop. Leave him alone.
Look,
Taylor, let go of him.
Look what's so started of that. When you started of that, dude. Go ahead. We're lighting. Come on, kids, no action. She's lighting up. Ah! Come on, boo-boo. Come on, boy.
You need to stand up behind here.
He did not bring out the cones.
I feel like it ruins the sky when you do fireworks. Yes, please. I cones. But he should put 2, 3, 4. So no, we don't have enough cones.
You all right?
Yeah, they put 5. Oh, we ran over.
You need some water?
Be like,
Mary, go get a bottle of water. Huh? What?
Go.
I don't know why.
Oh. She was like, she didn't want to come outside.
She's with Demi.
No, she's not. She's just sitting there like.
No, child. That's Kaya.
whoa, what's that thing?
Demi's looking out the window.
No, watch it. Watch it. Blown up.
Demi can put those things in her ears.
Johnny boy. Johnny boy need it. Bring your water.
Oh. No, it can't. It's too high up in the air.
No, it's not. You know, it depends on if you got, it depends on if you have like fire or stuff in my day. Like this one right here? No, wait.
It seemed like it. I do. All day, girl. I've been up about 10, 15 minutes.
Why is your ponytail just sticking out? Because it's hot. I just put my hair back.
Yeah, she got the skids.
Short. Can I use your phone? Hey. Oh, look, they just passed it. Wow. They would know.
Mr. Watson, your daughter said be careful, don't get burned.
I
liftoff.
Esther said, "Where's Mom?" Mom is holding the camera.
I'm holding the camera.
She's holding the camera.
You don't think I'm gonna light anything. I'm just a observer, making sure she's doing the right thing. I thought you said don't relight it. Did you take that one out? Isn't that the one you said don't relight? Oh. Okay.
I realized the fuse never burned down. That's why.
Okay. Oh, some more folks over there. The top of the road. Now another big one. I know. We have to clean up after. She was just kicking the other one away. Coming a little closer. This is another big one. So here it comes. Okay, run, girl. All right, you ready? Here it goes.
Big one. I don't know what's gonna come out. Oh, hold it.
Wow.
It's nice.
Yeah, that's pretty, but I was backing up on that one.
Oh,
still
you thought
going.
it was finished.
See? Woo!
Now that joint is tight.
That joint. That joint is tight. I'm about to say it. I think I'm high. Straight weed over.
Administrator.
Michelle, you're out here on the beach. Hey, Tony.
Pierogi. So I love potato pierogi.
Potato pierogi.
Maybe I read this now.
Glow sticks.
They ready to tippy toe. Y'all gotta go in the light. Hey, tippy toe, tippy toe. No, you just lay that on the ground and it. I think that's the one that spins. Naya, you come at me up one more time and do that, and I'm gonna beat you.
I didn't burn you, did I?
Is what neon colors, Mama? No. You should have did that one last, Sean. That's what them things do, Nick. Dog the smoke.
If they do, I'll be ready. I will be ready.
Is Caitlin watching?
With Avery from the window.
Alright.
When I brought Avery in the house, she was screaming and crying, and Caitlin jumped up and thought something was wrong. Like, what's wrong? Nothing. There's some sound on me from the fireworks.
Yeah, you did this one. I think so.
into her fucking house. I thought that was about to break the window.
She's about to have mad shit on her roof.
My graduation party was better. That shit
Well, I
we
think
should-
he got more fireworks that day.
I was gonna say my dad bought $1,000 worth of fireworks for my graduation party. That shit was like.
Oh, that's because it was a bunch of like family and friends that know the spot.
So, and they know the Walsh
Like
graduation
today,
parties are lit.
yeah. And plus, it was kind of like towards the end of the summer type shit too.
Yeah, it was right after my mom's story. So everybody were really trying to show out.
Yeah. Here it's just like if nobody, you know, we're not doing nothing big. It was just supposed to be like a small family thingy.
Oh god, it fell over. Yeah. Oh, I didn't. I didn't know more.
It's alright.
This paper towel is soaked, and I already wiped my hands as well.
It's alright. You got peed on. We all get
It's a part of being an auntie.
Yeah, we all get peed on. Swag.
What do you mean, son-in-law? I'm right here in your face.
Come on.
This is your son, not your son-in-law. Get it right. We have to fight.
Yeah. I heard you call, Ma. You know I got a bad ear. Yeah, now I'm half deaf.
What do you mean?
Tonight, a lot of shooting. A lot of shooting, y'all. A lot of shooting. We out here get there. Oh, y'all see the fireworks behind me. Look at the fireworks behind me, y'all. Look at that. They getting it, y'all. And there she is again, little Teeny. There's Teeny. There's Teeny again, y'all. Yeah, see? Told y'all we a big ass family. We don't give no fuck. We wild out here. Uh-oh, running man, old school. She old school with it. Old school with it, y'all. Hey. Oh, we missing fireworks. There they go. It's crazy, y'all. Dude almost got blown up, y'all. Y'all saw that shit? It's going down, y'all. Y'all see this shit. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hey. Shoot. 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 Ah, look at that. Y'all see it, man.
Hey, Bubba.
Saludos, prima. Allá están los viejos, mira, mira, prima.
But baby, I can't run right now. Oh, Bridget got here.
Wait a minute. Oh, oh, oh. Hey. Woo. Bree and the kids coming, Auntie. They need to move this. Well, they can't move it. The jumper thing. One of them just went behind it though. Hold on, Auntie. Here she comes. There go the kids, Auntie. Tell Auntie Laura, hey, y'all.
So many people here.
You know, black girl always have a whole bunch of folks behind her.
it's okay. Breathe. No bad. Boy, him.
So the big ones are about, what, 15? The big ones? Oh, okay.
Hey, you already know.
Look at you.
You know
$1 in the air. Then they say they're gonna take $150 out. Shit. When we go a day late, they make us pay $200.
I heard that. I heard that. The boy over there, he be paying like $400 before they put.
We pay the extra dollar. I paid $300 extra.
Yeah, this boy, his rent, he be paying like 12, 11. He be letting, he'll wait till the end of the month. And I said, why you do that?
You know what else?
But look though, they been was here. They been here, and they ass did not fucking spray. Excuse me. Ain't they been here? Why they ain't been sprayed? Tell her. Ain't they been here? They ain't sprayed. That's fucked up. Now they gonna have to fix all this stuff.
It was a firecracker. It went up, but it came down wrong.
Oh, you saw the firecracker? Yeah. Oh, you saw when this happened too?
It went out.
Oh man. I was sitting over there vibing with the ladies over there. I don't think it wasn't intentional, so we can't say stupid people.
Yeah.
Cause it's a holiday. It was lighting firecrackers. Oh, it wasn't a good firework? Oh.
Nobody sleeps in their home tonight.
Me too. Man, I can't believe this shit. Yeah, already, I think. That shit is blank. One of them windows ain't busted in. Which one?
Downstairs, I'm over right here. See what I said?
Yeah. Damn. That shit, they need to remake that motherfucker anyways. You think so?
Yeah, I was like,
they said. I don't give a fuck what they said. They pissing me the fuck off. Shit, stupid motherfuckers. I'm all on live and shit, cutting up. That's what I'm saying. Why would y'all tell us to move and y'all study coming over this way with that big ass shit? Come on, you want to get in the car, right? Everybody just crying.
You know I try to bring it to you, boo. You know I try to bring y'all, you know, to the scene wherever I'm at. You know how it goes down. Yeah.
Come here. Stop, stop, stop.